Hello, kia ora, g'day. I'm Philip Duncan from WeatherWatch TV on YouTube with your Australia-only forecast through until Sunday. We've got a storm off the east coast. We'll kick off with that. You can see here on the satellite map, the bright yellow and the blue, that's the cloud. The green layer you see over the top, that is the rain. So we're seeing some widespread rain and showers, a few thunderstorms in there too, going all the way from central parts of Queensland all the way down to the southeast, and in fact now coming over into parts of New South Wales. Thunderstorms aren't very widespread, but they are bubbling up here and there around this system. There are a couple of low pressure zones out to the east. That is going to get better organised in the days ahead. Heavy rains, severe gales are all in the mix, along with dangerous sea conditions. Jump over to the other side, and around Western Australia in the southern corner, you've got another area of low pressure spinning off the coast here. Plenty of offshore thunderstorms. Some of those might brush land, but most of the blue you see on the map there, that's high cloud. Quite normal when you've got high pressure to the north of it, low pressure to the south. The clouds thin out as they go further into the higher pressure zone, and so you end up with these sort of thin areas of cloud. So not a lot of rain necessarily falling, just a bit gloomy. And that is all moving along eastwards. So those of you in the south got a chance of some further showers this week. Inland and northern areas, pretty quiet, as you'd expect in the middle of your dry season. So let's have a look at Monday's setup with the air pressure going in towards the later part of today. You can see this sort of line of low pressure. It is basically dropping southwards and splitting this large area of high pressure in half. And so you're going to see one centre kind of bubble out into Australia, the other one pushing out east of New Zealand, and that will allow those two lows to merge and grow into one larger system. So it's got kind of a good space for it to do that in the days ahead. Still a southerly flow coming into many parts of Australia. Temperatures are still down for those of you who would expect it to maybe be a little bit milder, perhaps around parts of Queensland and inland parts around the Northern Territory. But it's mild for many of you in Western Australia with either easterlies off the desert or northerlies coming out of central parts. So it's not exactly a dramatic forecast. Let's have a look at Tuesday's setup. A little more drama though here as you look towards New South Wales. So this low gets deeper and really does start to develop damaging wind gusts. Keep up to date with the Bureau of Meteorology. They do the official warnings and watches, but we're telling you here, this is a wind risk from this event, roughly from Port Macquarie to just south of Sydney. That is the main risk zone for the worst of those winds, and they go up into the hills as well, up to the divide, and then they taper off. But you can see right through New South Wales, that is a fairly breezy southerly blowing through for you. It may be a little more southwest in some areas, a bit more southeast in others. Victoria in there as well. The blue line, the polar line coming up, it's only just brushing the very southern coastline, southeast of South Australia and the southwest of Victoria, brushing Melbourne and Tasmania inside it. So Tassie's got another cooler day today. But this large high pressure zone here around South Australia, southerly flow on the eastern side, more of a northerly flow on the western side. So it's quite a big system, but obviously that low offshore is the main focus. So here's the gust map. This is for 4 o'clock Tuesday for those of you on the east coast. Damaging winds are in the purple shading. So that is getting up above 90 or 100 kilometres an hour. And that goes all the way from about sort of Bateman's Bay, or may even be a little further north of that, all the way up to about Port Macquarie. And then it tapers out. Strongest winds around the hills and ranges in those areas north and south of that risk zone. But within the risk zone, most of that wind is coastal. So coming straight off the sea and brushing the hills and ranges all around there. So watch out for wind warnings. They are possible, but it doesn't take very much inland for those winds to really taper off and not be problematic. So fingers crossed, you don't have too many issues with this going through Tuesday. Here is Wednesday. Again, the center of this low is very stretched out, has a couple of centers to it, which makes it a little bit messy. But you can see with the high pressure system further inland, the low pressure system out at sea, the squash zone right along that eastern coastal area. Now, as those winds tilt a little more southeast, that should push more of those winds out to sea. But it will be a windy day for coastal areas right along the east and through some of the hills, ranges, the divide. You're getting those strong gusts of 90 k's, 100 k's an hour or more. Let's zoom out for Wednesday now. So you can see that large low, it's kind of got two centers to it, so it stretches out the energy a wee bit. Damaging winds go all the way around this low, so therefore you can technically call it a storm. And heavy rain also pushing in along the coastline here. Could be 100 millimetres of rain just north of Sydney as we go through into Wednesday afternoon and evening. Southerly polar portion is to the south here around Victoria for the most part. It does just brush New South Wales and Tasmania. Because of the low out to sea, it's kind of pushing back, so it pushes the polar air back a little bit, but it's still a bit cold, miserable, and some rain falling for you, especially up here in the northeast corner, driest over in the northwest corner. Dry for most other places. There's a reason I'm not talking a lot about everyone else. There's just not much happening, but we do still see a few showers in Western Australia. There is the next low coming on in for you, and by Thursday that will spark some heavier rain, thunderstorms as well, and then a southerly change. Temperatures drop for you over in Western Australia on Thursday, going right up past Geraldton, really up to about Carnarvon. You might be even seeing some of that southerly change coming on through for you. And you jump over to the eastern side, you've also got a southerly blowing through, still raining around Sydney with heavy falls, maybe 50 or 60 millimetres there. That means you've got wind and rain warnings, quite likely this week from the Bureau of Meteorology, and then you've got all the marine warnings that go along with it. And then up in the mountains, maybe a little bit of snow, maybe not quite as much as we've seen. That's because the polar boundary dropping away now, and so even though it is a southeasterly wind, it's only coming from about as far away as New Zealand or the Tasman Sea. So it's not exactly a freezing cold southerly by the time it comes in. High pressure right here between South Australia, Queensland and New South Wales, right on the border. That is high pressure. West of that, you've got a northerly wind coming through, and then even further out to that, there is that southerly once more coming in around the west coast of Western Australia. By Friday, southerlies move in across Australia, so temperatures drop right across the southern half of Western Australia, and as we go through Friday, maybe not until the end of the day, South Australia will get that change coming through. You can see low pressure right here in the Great Australian Bight. Windy, northerlies, could be gale force, even severe gale force, damaging for parts of South Australia and coming into a little part of Western Victoria. It doesn't look overly widespread, that wind, but it is going to be blustery, so dust may be another problem again. And the Tasman Sea low is dropping off over towards New Zealand, bringing severe weather there, but conditions are easing now for the eastern side of Australia going into the weekend. And so by the time we get to Saturday, I got your orders for the right forecast. Northerly winds, sunny skies, and warmer as you go into Saturday. And that's for Victoria, Tasmania, New South Wales, the A.C.T, and Queensland. All of you are in that warmer, drier category. A couple of isolated showers for coastal Queensland, but it's not very much. Then you've got the low coming into South Australia with that change behind it. You can see the southerlies coming in on the western side. Ahead of it, you've got westerlies and northerlies. So those northerlies are still blowing across that eastern side, or pushing further into Victoria, I should say, with the southerly change behind it. Just a few showers for South Australia and Western Australia. Not a huge amount of wet weather in there. And by Sunday, it's a good old wet day, hopefully, around Adelaide and the surrounds and the hills as you get a sort of a showery southwesterly, bit of rain, patchy kind of rain stuck in there. Thunderstorms are also a possibility, especially around New South Wales, where the darker blobs of blue are as you go into a higher elevation. Increased risk of some thundery downpours, and a similar story around Queensland as well. But otherwise, not a lot of drama going on. The next big system is a storm down over the Southern Ocean, and that's going to drive in a windy nor'wester, a few showers, maybe a thunderstorm or two from Perth southwards or Bunbury southwards into that corner down to about Albany. Otherwise, really not a huge amount going on for a lot of inland areas, but a lot of more populated places this week. Places like Adelaide and Melbourne and Sydney, all getting caught up in perhaps some of that more severe weather, or at least showery weather and sort of changeable weather in those places. Here's the rainfall through to Sunday. Heaviest falls around the Sydney area, where you might be getting 200 millimetres or more, but it doesn't take very much inland. You go to Canberra, for example, and you're talking about 10 millimetres or 15 at the most. That's a big difference in a fairly short distance. And so that's worth monitoring, how far that heavy rain goes in. If the low in the Tasman just moves a little bit further towards New Zealand, your rainfall reduces, and likewise, if it does the other thing, your rainfall totals can go up. So it's worth monitoring for parts of New South Wales, and of course that windy weather that goes with it as well. So a few things to talk about in today's video. I'll be back again on Thursday with the very latest as we go into the weekend. And of course, we've got our ClimateWatch update that is out tomorrow, the 1st of July, taking a look at the big picture of weather around all of Australasia, not just Australia itself, but out towards the Tasman, New Zealand, the tropics and south of us. All of that will be in ClimateWatch out on July the 1st. Have a great rest of your day and a good week ahead.